The NLRB's calculations show that the full scope of wages and benefits could be, quote, north of 30 million. These are conservative estimates, and the potential remedy could be much higher.
I've got an update about Starbucks. Starbucks workers have been doing a really great job of organizing the company. There's now over 11,000 union baristas at over 500 stores. And just last week, the National Labor Relations Board have said that Starbucks has cut workers' hours at hundreds of unionized stores without bargaining over it. And now Starbucks is going to have to pay the difference to those union baristas. That's what the NLRB said last week. The general counsel of the National Labor Relations Board made this claim in a complaint last week. And so it's important to understand that labor law in the United States basically says that once you have unionized, you have a right to have a say in your working conditions. It is no longer the case that your employer can just unilaterally change your conditions of employment. They must bargain with you. Now, that doesn't mean that your employer must agree with you. That doesn't even, the employer can bargain with you and ultimately not change their decision and ultimately implement a change in policy over the wishes of the union and over the wishes of the employees. That's possible. You can do that, but you have to at least go through the motions of bargaining. You can't just unilaterally announce a change in the conditions of employment, a change in the way that you're going to do scheduling, a change in the hourly rate of pay, things like that. You have to at least go through the motions of bargaining, and really, especially under a more worker-friendly labor board, you have to do it in good faith, and you have to genuinely kind of deal with any objections or suggestions from the union before you implement a policy change over the wishes of the union. And so the NLRB, Jennifer Abruzzo, the general counsel for the NLRB, is alleging in a complaint that Starbucks did not do that they did not bargain over the changing conditions. And so they're saying that at approximately 290 Starbucks stores, after they unionized, Starbucks changed the way that people got hours and ultimately cut hours. And so, just for example, it doesn't say this specifically, but let's just say that across these 290 stores, people at those stores got an average of 30 hours a week before, and now they get an average of 20 hours a week, right? And so the NLRB is saying that for the last 2 years at some of these stores, these changes have been implemented. Starbucks is going to have to go back and pay these people back pay based on what they would have been paid if the company had not made these unilateral changes. And that includes back pay. That's going to include, some of these people, there's a threshold at Starbucks for like when you get into getting health care and these other benefits. And so some of the people obviously came under that threshold. They were above the threshold before these changes were implemented, and they got under it after the changes were implemented. And so they're going to have to pay back pay for the value of the benefits that these people didn't get, and the way that the NLRB has also taken a more expansive definition of making people whole, the make whole remedy, to include interest and to include the interest on short-term loans that employees had to take out because they were not making what they would have made but for the violations of the law by the company. And so if you're talking about, hundreds of stores, thousands of employees over the course of, in some cases at some of these stores, 2 years, you can see how very quickly this starts to add up. And Dave Jameson has a really good piece about it in the Huffington Post. I recommend you go check it out. Starbucks could owe millions to baristas who unionized. So check that out if you haven't, by Dave Jameson, really good labor journalist for the Huffington Post. By the calculations of one NLRB official in an email with Dave, he said the NLRB says that his calculations show that the full scope of wages and benefits could be, quote, north of 30 million, and, quote, these are conservative estimates and the potential remedy could be much higher. So this is going to be a very big deal. You know, in the course of comparing 30 million or even north of 30 million to the profits and the annual operating revenue of Starbucks ultimately is not a huge deal, or it's not a huge percentage, but still having that, but it's obviously going to be a very big win for these workers. I mean, talking about 30 million divided by a few thousand workers, that's a lot of money for each person. That's going to make a big difference in their lives. It's going to give them a lot more confidence in their, in the degree to which labor law, is on their side in the United States. And what we could see out of this, and what is probably the most likely outcome, is that the Starbucks union resolves this complaint and doesn't take it further as a result of a contract and some sort of back pay deal. That basically the expectation or my expectation is that the union and the company settle for some undisclosed or potentially disclosed price to back pay, give back pay to some of these workers and to get a contract. You know, the union has been negotiating with the company for a national framework for a contract at all of the unionized stores. And so this is going to give them increased leverage. You know, the union is now going to be able to go to the table and say, look, we can make this go away if you negotiate with us in good faith and give us a good contract. That's really the benefit to the union and to these baristas at these hundreds of stores, is that it gives them increased leverage. They can say, we can make this complaint go away, give us a deal. And so we'll see what happens there, but obviously a very, very big development and a serious increase in leverage to the union and the 11,000 union baristas. Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Yeah, and I want to shout out Starbucks Workers United for unionizing their 500th store recently. I think that's a really big deal. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done. There's actually only two that have unionized here in Alabama. That's Birmingham first, and then Scottsboro. Really proud of Scottsboro. It was young folks who helped lead the charge there. Dealt with a lot of opposition from the company. Still dealing with lots of nonsense from the company, is my understanding, or at least what I'm, believing. And it's really unfortunate to see this lawless behavior from Starbucks. They, crafted this progressive image over the years. I believe that probably a lot of customers of Starbucks, would not necessarily be happy with union busting. So that's something that I think we have to continue to educate folks about what's happening in this campaign and what, the extent to which Starbucks is willing to go to bust the union, to crush worker power, to fight against their own employees. It's something they've been doing now with multiple CEOs. It looks like they've had some turmoil at the top, but I don't know that they've really significantly changed tack. My understanding is they're still engaged in litigation to try to more or less gut the NLRB. Is that, Jacob? I don't know if you followed that closely, but there, the lawsuit that Starbucks and I believe Amazon and SpaceX and there's maybe one or two other companies that are pursuing litigation to try to more or less outlaw the National Labor Relations Board and rule it unconstitutional. So just really egregious behavior by Starbucks. The key there, though, is as workers continue to organize, I think they will see that leverage grow, and I think they will see more wins like this, and they'll be able to rack up more wins like this. I do think it shows also the value of a pretty good National Labor Relations Board.
Right.
Whatever you want to say about the Biden administration on any number of policies, many of which I disagree with him on, I have to give credit to the NLRB. It has been probably the best labor board in my lifetime in terms of actually standing for workers and protecting workers' rights and actually doing the mission that it's charged with by law, which is to uphold and protect workers. So, just a few observations there, but I'm excited to dive more into the Starbucks campaign. Reached out to Starbucks Workers United. We're working to get some folks on the show to talk about the 500th store and this, celebrate this milestone. I believe next week's episode we'll also be talking with someone who organized their Starbucks store, the first in their state. So yeah, it's going to be, fun to learn a little bit more, check in and see where things are at. I think it's really, it's been inspiring to see unionization break ground in the service industry where traditionally it has not, had a stronghold. So seeing it, gain ground there, and also seeing young people, because it has been a lot of young people involved with organizing Starbucks. Like I said, at Scottsboro, I believe the youngest person on the organizing committee was 16 at the time. Many of the workers who are organizing at these Starbucks stores, they are young. They're, fresh out of high school. They're either in college or, they've left high school. They're in transitional times in their lives, and they're learning how to organize and fight back against overwhelming corporate power. And I think that's really inspirational. And I really hope will lead to more in our movement, right? Because all of these folks who are cutting their teeth organizing against Starbucks, if they decide not to work at Starbucks for the rest of their lives, if they decide to go into different career paths, they will have that organizing experience and background. And so I hope that this will be a campaign that really, causes multiple campaigns in a ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some discussion in the chat from Steve and our Canadian listener about how they don't shop at Starbucks anymore. And I know a lot of people have stopped shopping at Starbucks as a result of their relationship with the union. I have always been my stance towards like boycotts is that I always, if it's over a labor issue anyway, I may or may not shop at stores for any number of reasons, but for labor issues specifically, I typically wait for the union to request a boycott. Otherwise, I don't change my consumption behavior as it relates to labor anyway. So Starbucks Workers United have not requested a boycott of Starbucks, at least an ongoing one. I think there was 1 or 2 days where they were like, hey, don't shop at Starbucks on this day or that day or whatever, right? And obviously I don't cross picket lines, so when Starbucks workers have been on strike, I don't get Starbucks from a struck store, obviously. That's kind of obvious, but generally I have not, and so, I don't shop at Starbucks often, but when I'm traveling, I do. And so what I do is I try to look for a union store, and if there is a union store, then I'll go to Starbucks. But yeah,
talk to your local barista and tell them to go to sbworkersunited.org.
There you go.
And I recommend all of our listeners do that as well, sbworkersunited.org. That is the official website of Starbucks Workers United. You can find out what they're up to. You can see the latest campaigns. And if there are any calls to action, I know they've recently had some events where community members were out distributing flyers at certain targeted stores. If you know anyone who works at a Starbucks, please do connect them to the union. If you are interested in making a difference in the world, get a job at Starbucks and organize that store, because that really is a big deal. So if you're someone who is interested in getting involved with labor, Starbucks is a prime target. Let's just be honest about it. It's an area where there's momentum. So if you're listening to this and you think, wow, I'd really like to organize my workplace. I'd like to try out this union thing and see what it feels like to have this kind of collective power and the power of collective action. Starbucks, do it. Let's do this thing.
There's another person in the chat who also boycotts Starbucks. Alana says, I won't even buy from Starbucks anymore. Go woke, go broke. And now originally I thought that this was like a joke, like they were doing a bit. But I went on their channel and it's like she says, I'm a conservative Christian woman who researches all points of view. So apparently not a bit.
Welcome.
Welcome. Appreciate you listening. But I do think it's strange that you don't want to go to Starbucks, presumably because they have like red cups at Christmas is what we're talking about there. I'm not totally sure.
I'm not sure, but call us. Let us know why. We're happy to entertain that and hope you'll stick around to hear a little bit about labor solidarity, interracial people power, what it takes, to transform the system to be a little bit better for everyday people.
There you go.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.